Today I'm going to show you how I prune my tomatoes, and I will walk you through the differences between my pruning practices for the indeterminate versus the determinate varieties, and how I prune also my wild cherry tomatoes, because everything, as you can tell, turned into a jungle, and we got to make sure they have airflow to not catch any disease early in the season. So let's get going. I'm Steffi, I'm a home gardener here in Attleboro, Massachusetts, in Zone 6, and I love to take you along for the ride, so welcome to my channel. Let's talk a little bit about the timing for pruning. You do not want to start to prune your tomatoes when you're about to have a heat wave or some other stressful events, but I would say heat waves are the most common thing in the summer because pruning will stress the plant, and then if you hit it over the head with the heat wave, it's not going to go well down with the plant. They will survive most likely because tomatoes are actually very, very tough, if you ask me, but you don't want to make it harder for them, right? So do not prune in front of a heat wave. We have a couple warmer days than usual tomorrow, but then it cools down for a week, so that should be all fine and good. What you also shouldn't do is prune them when they are wet. So today is a beautiful sunny day, everything is dry, so that's a good time to prune them, because once you touch around the plants when it's wet, you are most likely spreading disease, because the human is the biggest disease factor in the garden. So don't do that. And then when we start pruning, I will never prune more than a third of a plant at once. When you need to do more than a third of pruning because it turned into a jungle, like this, for example, I will spread it out in 2 sessions with a couple of weeks in between to just give the plant a break. So now let's talk a little bit about the different types of tomatoes and how I prune them. Here you can see I'm standing in my extremely vigorous, extremely wild and unruly cherry tomatoes. Those are just 3 plants in the front of the trellis, which are supposed to grow over it, and you can tell it's growing more into it. What I'm going to do is I will prune everything what's on the bottom in terms of leaf off. I will most likely prune some sucker out of it, just to give it shape and just to make sure it goes onto the trellis. So I have also some yarn with which I will tie the branches to the trellis to just help them direct them into the right direction. Right behind them in the cages, we have our determinate tomatoes. So for the determinate tomatoes, we don't want to prune off that much, because supposedly you're not supposed to prune at all your determinate tomatoes if you look into any type of literature. I call BS on that. Personally, I've always pruned my paste tomatoes and my determinate varieties as well, because as you can tell, I plant them relatively dense, so I want to be sure that I have airflow with my tomatoes, because if you don't have airflows, you're just inviting disease. You can have pockets where you have any type of pests crawling around and you just don't see it. So I typically prune off leaves starting from the bottom, like I do it for my indeterminate and cherry tomatoes as well. But what I don't do with the paste tomatoes is I don't prune any suckers off. So I'm literally just going off on the bottom to provide them some airflow on the bottom, but don't remove the suckers. While for the cherry tomatoes and the heirloom and indeterminate varieties, I do prune suckers out, to just ensure that they have a few main stems to produce fruit on and not push all the energies into more foliage and more stems, etc. Right? So that's not necessary. We want the plant to focus on fruit production and not leaf production. Something what's also important to know is that any tomato plant only produces its full set of energy from the top 30%. So anything what's below in terms of foliage is not mission critical for its survival. But again, keep in mind, we don't want to take off too much at a time. I go with a third at the very maximum. But as you can tell, they haven't been really pruned just yet. So we'll go hard into them. But they will like it and they will do better afterwards. So what do I use for materials when I do pruning jobs? Obviously some clippers, some farm yarn to rein in the branches of the cherry tomato back to the trellis. And what's important as well is some cleaning agent. You can use bleach solution. Today I'm using my Clorox wipes because it's just more convenient right now to do it quick and fast. But it's really important to sanitize your shears between each plant. So I always go just prune one specific plant, then wipe my shears with a Clorox wipe, and then move on to the next one. Again, keep in mind the human is the biggest disease factor. You do not want to be that person who spreads early on disease. You might not see it, they might look still healthy, but trust me, that goes quicker than you can imagine, from happy to unhealthy. So have good practices in terms of cleaning and sanitizing, and your plants will thank you for that. One thing which I get always asked is, what is a sucker? A sucker is, when you look here, we have here two beautiful examples. We have here a main branch coming up, and then we have here the side shoots off with the leaves, and those 45-degree angles, growth points here are suckers. So this one is already larger. We have one below here as well. So if they're smaller, you can just pinch them out with fingernails or so, but those ones are already larger, so I'll use my snips for it. Just cut them off there, and cut them off there. There you go. So then the other thing, what I look out for is when I prune a plant, is I don't want to have any leaves touching the ground on the bottom. So I will remove anything what you see there, which is leaning down, and cut it away. And it's a little bit hard to record, so I hope you can see it. But this is where the main diseases crawl into the plant, from anything what sprinkles from the bottom, for anything what sprinkles from like the soil when it's wet onto the plant. That is where like fungal disease can reach the plant. So that's always important to cut out. So always check twice before you cut once. But so I will, for example, take out this one and this one. Let me see where this one is coming from. Ooh, it's a tingly mess already. So you see this one, how that reaches the ground. We'll definitely take that one out. And then this one here. And like little shoots from the ground up like this one, nobody needs that either. That just takes energy away from the plant. So we'll cut that one out too. Boop. Always be aware to not cut into your irrigation line. And let me see. And when you start cutting, you start seeing also more, and that is what you want. You want to have airflow on the bottom. So I'll show you the after shortly. So there we go. Ugh. So the goal is really to be able to see through on the bottom of the plants again, and that will help them to prevent diseases. So this is really what we're aiming for, right? You can see definitely the difference because you can actually see something now. So that is what we're going to do for all our indeterminate varieties and determinate varieties, in terms of leaf pruning from the bottom. And then for the cherry tomatoes as well as the heirloom varieties, we also go through and cut out more suckers to just have a few of those creating. Otherwise, it will bush out too crazy, and we have already so many side shoots in here. So let me check. Some more. I think we got the main ones. Yeah, so that was a good job for the first tomato plant. And then, as I mentioned before, important is to clean your shears after every plant to be sure that you're not spreading anything what might have been on and you just didn't notice it. So I use Clorox wipes. They have worked well for me. You can use bleach solution or rubbing alcohol. Anything what gets germs away helps in that regard. All right, so one is done, and we have like 12 more to go. So let's get going. Just took the fence down here, or the chicken wire protection of this bed, and you could tell the cherry tomato was leaning onto it, so we got to bring it back to the fence. Hey, puppers. Hey. What you doing? What? Over here is a great example to show you some bottom leaves who already don't look so great anymore. And we're going to take those ones out. And you can also tell they're touching the ground, right? That's exactly what's causing the issues here. So we'll want to take this one out. And here you can tell there's already something not so great going on with it. Got to clean the shears afterwards. I'll take that one out. That was completely sprawled over the ground. And that one. Whoop. That one. That one. Ooh. And then I start to look at the cherry tomato as a whole. For example, if I want to take this branch out, this is completely reaching here into the walkthrough of the yard. It's already a larger branch, so I won't cut more than like one of the large ones, for example, and the other ones just are going to get pruned back. But we'll cut that one out just to make sure it grows tall and over the arch and not completely obstructing it here. So sometimes you got to do the hard things, and that is a little bit of a hard thing, but it's better for the plant and for just me using my garden over time. And here's a beautiful example again of a sucker, which we cut out here too. And then anything what looks not so great, I'm just cutting it out. And yes, this might feel a little bit radical, but again, this is already a very, very large plant if you look at it. So I really want to make sure you have a lot of leeway with that if you keep in mind that you only want to get 30% out of it at once. That is a large plant that can hold on to some severe pruning here. There's another sucker, which we'll cut out here. Boop. So, but it's also already growing some really, really beautiful tomatoes here. This is the Sweet Prince variety from row 7. I haven't grown those ones, but if they are anything like my other row 7 varieties, I'm really excited to try to taste it. So I'll take that one and that one. Oh, and look, I can see my basil again. So what I'm going to do here probably is spread it a little bit. So this comes around here and this one goes here. This is the next one already, and I'm glad we're pruning it because I see some not so happy leaves over there already too. So it's a good moment to do that. And that one. Yeah, and that might be just some fungus on the bottom because we had a lot of rain, which turned the leaves yellow. So I wouldn't panic just yet. So as long as you cut them out and be really stringent with your cleaning practices in between, you should be all good. But let me grab some yarn so we can tie those ones on. So, but you can see how nice and clean airflow produced, and the plant will thank you for it. And that's the aftermath from just one large plant already. So don't be shy. Now you can see how slightly radical I was, but I think it's going to be for the better. Number one, for the usage of the arch, but also for the plants itself. They have more space now to grow upstairs and don't spend so much time and energy on the bottom leaves, and we have airflow on the bottom now. So I think this is going to be appreciated by the plants. What I've done here is I've tied them with some farm yarn to the trellis, which I like to use because it's flexible. It's like super soft. It's like, I don't know, like stretchy pants material, which is really nice. So the stem can grow with it without getting hurt or anything, can move a little bit with it, which is always helpful when we have a lot of wind so that the stem doesn't break if there's wind coming in. But yeah, so that is what I'm doing here, and I will finish this up with all the other tomatoes now, but that is pretty much what we're doing. So I hope this video was helpful for you. Let me know if you have any questions. I feel there might be some, but otherwise subscribe and watch another video. Thank you.